Hello, Brandon Harvey here with this week's episode of Sounds Good, the podcast where every single Monday I sit down with an inspiring person and talk about happiness, overcoming struggles, and living a life of intentionality and wonder. This week I'm so excited to share a short conversation with Bob Goff. If you know of Bob already, he needs no introduction. If you don't know Bob, just think of him as a crazy, eccentric dad changing the world in all kinds of crazy ways. He's a lawyer, he's a professor, he's recognized by the U.S. State Department as a diplomat, he's the honorary consul to the country of Uganda, and he's started all these schools all over the world in the most wild places. Uganda, Iraq, Somalia. It's amazing. And when he wrote a book a few years ago, he talked the publisher into letting him put his personal cell number in the back of the book. And he always answers it. Like, that's his deal. He always answers it when people call. In fact, Bob answered a call during our interview. So nuts. I love how available he is. In fact, that's kind of how this conversation came together. I've known Bob for a little while, but I landed in San Diego, where he lives, and just decided to call him spontaneously, see if he was around. He had a few hours before he was heading to the airport and told me to just swing on by and bring my microphone. So that's what I did. And this conversation is that. Bob has a crazy and amazing way of seeing the world, and I hope you love this conversation as much as I did. Let's jump straight into it. All right, you guys, we are in San Diego with Bob Goff. Bob, welcome to Sounds Good.
Hey, thanks a million. Great being on with you.
Man, I am so psyched to have you here. I told you a minute ago that I think that you are the chief optimist, and this show is about optimism and overcoming cynicism, and so I'm excited to have you.
Yeah, everybody thought Jesus was drunk. I think he was just happy.
Oh, man. So I think a lot of people who are listening to this may not actually know anything about you, and I think there's a lot of people who do, but I want to just kind of start at the basic level and be like, Bob, tell me about your boring job, like the one on the side that that you've been doing for decades.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer by training, but like most of the listeners, you have things that you're able to do and then things that you're made to do. Oftentimes there's similarity, but oftentimes they're very different. So while I'm able to be a lawyer and try cases and all that, I've been doing it for 30 years. I actually wasn't made to do that. What I'm made to do is start schools in conflict areas. And it wasn't because I got some thunderous voice from on high that said start schools in conflict areas, but it just works. So I wrote a book. I'm not an author. I'm a husband. I'm a dad. I'm like, that's how I would self-identify. Jesus isn't interested in all of our titles. I'm not either. So like this idea of saying, how could we make an impact while we're here? You're doing it in your way. I'm doing it my way. And then like that kid's story, remember Stone Soup? Everybody throws their vegetables in and then we all get fed. So we wrote a book and we just gave all the money away and they sold quite a few of them. So we have schools now in 7 different countries and most of them are conflict areas. And I'm just headed out again in a couple days. I'm not sure when, but in a couple days to another one. So I spend my days visiting with people during the day, and then in between that, then run out and kind of be dad coming by the school. Not to say anything in particular, but to just say like, way to go, keep going.
I love it.
Yeah, and we start schools with good guys and bad guys and undecided. We have people like actually bad guys that we just like teach them, because that idea of like loving people that you don't understand, people that creep you out, it's kind of like that's kind of a report card on where you're at in your life and your faith, wherever it is that you're coming from. It would be easy to hang out with you, but find somebody who's a little bit more difficult to hang out. So we find opportunities to
that's good. Where are some of these schools? I mean, I know that you've got Iraq, you've got Somalia. Can I say that? Is that top secret? You've got schools in these places where a lot of people don't know that you can put a school there, and that you're just some guy from San Diego and you're putting a school in Somalia. Like,
isn't
that's
that crazy? And you just start. That's the crazy part. Is most of the work is done between you and like Romania Airlines. Because you just say, how am I going to get in there? Nobody wants to fly in because they'll shoot them down. But there's these airlines that keep switching who's going in. But right now, Turkish Air goes in. We were there a couple weeks ago. We got a couple safe houses for little girls that find themselves in these horrible circumstances, and they get sold into marriages at 13 years old to guys that are older than me, and I'm 57. So we're just like, heck no. And so we just guard their hearts, and we literally actually guard their hearts, and just instead of hoping things for people, just actually help people.
That's beautiful.
And my brain tells me when I'm hoping for something, it actually is helping, but actually helping is helping. Hoping is just hoping. So that's not a bad thing. It starts with hoping, and then for each of us on our path, it ends up being helping on your thing. So just stay in your lane. You don't have to look at what everybody else is doing. Just figure out what is it that you were made to do, and then do a ton of that.
I love it. I love it. And you're just showing up on the ground with, I mean, I was just in your office, you've got bulletproof vests lying around. And what, like, do you get freaked out doing this kind of stuff? Like, what does that look like? You're doing stuff that a lot of people, they just sit there and they don't even think about doing.
Man, this whole idea that I think is the starting point for me is that comfortable people forget how to love well. Right? If you're uncomfortable, you end up being dependent, and you end up learning some of love's ways. And so I'm the comfortable guy. Literally, I'm the guy in every single parable. I'm just the wrong guy in every parable because I'm comfortable. I got a house, I got a car, I got a boat, I got a dog I don't even want. But one of the things I'm trying to do is get more desperate. And so the way to get more desperate isn't to just read about things and identify with things or sign petitions about things. And those could all be fine starting points, but that's not an ending point to say, so what's my small piece of that? And we all have tiny pieces. Hopefully there's like such small pieces, we can't even like see nobody else. We'll be able to see just us. We just see your spot. And then you don't need to make a hoodie every time you do something nice. And we've just got a little nondescript office here in San Diego, and with a lot of people that have their head down, and then we're just trying to be helpful, whatever that is.
I love it. When did that start for you? Like, at what point did you kind of transition from being like, oh, I'm a lawyer, or maybe it's earlier than this, like, oh, I'm a lawyer, to like, oh, I'm gonna be out there doing this?
Yeah, I was a lawyer and had these young kids, and it always starts at your family. Just to say, like, what do you have? I got a wife, got these great kids. Then I started bringing the kids along. We started doing these adventures. I mean, we wrote to every world leader, like every leader on earth, and invite them over to the house for a sleepover and said, if you can't come, can we come over to your house? And we got all these yeses. So we pulled the kids out of school and just spent the longest time, like, getting like bargain fares on British Airways just over to Europe, and then finding where these people were, and then no agenda, because if loving people has an agenda, it ain't love anymore. And so sometimes what we do is we come with our big agenda about we want to help them with this, and actually not having agenda is helpful. Just ask them what they're into, and is there anything that they've been dreaming about that you could do together? That's a great question. Do
you have any stories of asking that question recently and getting something back and being like, well, I can help with that?
Oh, heck yeah. Like, it's Somalia. I mean, they're in the middle of this huge conflict. There's several warring clans. And I just got a hold of one of the sultans. That's one of the clans. And I said, do you want to? Like, meet. I'll meet you in Mogadishu. And so he said, yes. So we did. And I just brought, what are you bringing? So I just brought some slingshots and saltwater taffy. Literally. And I brought somebody else from their provisional government that would, by many measures, be an enemy. But we were just a couple guys just shooting saltwater taffy together. And there's something beautiful that happens when we get past all the, like, kind of the issues and get back to, like, becoming friends. And not the screwed up version of friendship, which is called networking, because that ain't friendship at all. Just friends. Nothing on the other side of the equal sign. Just more love. Right?
Yeah.
So just finding things to go do with people.
And I think a lot of people would look at that and they'd be like, Well, obviously, Bob, that works for you because you're Bob. But I can't just show up and shoot saltwater taffy with a slingshot. Like, what would you say to people who think that that's too simple? Or
yeah, you get to make your own rules. Literally, you can't decide how fast you can drive on the highway. I have diplomatic immunity. I can. But one of the things that you get to decide is how you're going to give your love away, and how you're going to. I'm not going to try to be organized in the way that I love people. I want to be available in the way that I love people. For instance, when you called and we tried to set up a time, we didn't. I just said, this is where I'm going to be. And then you came whenever you came. And so I don't make appointments with anybody. I haven't done that for 3 years. Can you imagine a lawyer that doesn't make appointments? But I get to make my own rules. And the rules are, I don't want to spend all my time thinking about whether you're late or I'm late or all this. I just let's just be together and then be all there. And then the idea of scheduling. I can't I know I'm going to Africa soon because I saw a bunch of Africa stuff out in the office. And so, but I don't know when, because the people that you met only tell me what I'm doing today, tomorrow, and the next day, which has been so beautiful. So you get to decide. And that helps me be actually present. A lot of us spend a lot of time in proximity to one another, but not actually present. And so that's been helpful. So make your rules. Just decide what's good for you. People don't follow vision, they follow availability. So just be available to people and figure out what will help you be more available.
I love that. I love that. One of my favorite things about you is that you are a fantastic storyteller. And not only that, but you're a fantastic story liver. And that sounds like liver, like the part of the body. But you live out good stories. You live out incredible stories on purpose for the sake of being able to almost kind of tell a story about that and use that to kind of move the needle, move people forward. What's another story that's happened in your life recently that you're psyched about?
Yeah, I don't have that many amazing things happen, but I have a lot of ordinary things that happen. And because I put my cell phone number in the back of a million books, I get quite a few phone calls. And so just being available, just deciding for even your listeners, decide that you're just not sending anybody to voicemail, and you'll lead a richer life. That's not amazing, but actually it sets a stage for unique things that happen. I get a lot of phone calls from prisons because these prisoners, they pass the book from cell to cell, and these guys get a call and they'll call me up. And there's a guy that called me yesterday, and he and a bunch of his felon friends are reading this book. And he said he really wanted to do something, we weren't sure what to do, and they can get socks at the commissary for $1.25. And so he's mailing me a bunch of socks. And I'll just give them away to people. Just to say, if you can't walk in their shoes, walk in their socks.
Beautiful.
But find the right person to give it to. That's what would make a difference. Find the right people where it would actually move the needle. We probably turn down 30 things a week. And I don't even see them. They would just say that the standard is this. There's these two amazing gals that field these things, and we'll just say, is it going to move the needle? Because if I talk to a bunch of lawyers, all of them in Canada are at one place, it won't matter, right? Because they've already decided to be awesome or not, or if they haven't decided yet, they'll never decide. But go talk to a bunch of 20s, 30-year-olds somewhere that are actually deciding, would it be possible? And it's not at the risk of making it sound kind of like Forrest Gump, that he just showed up. And then it's a lot of hard work. And so don't shy away from hard work. Quit waiting for the plan.
I love it.
The plan is to love everybody. And start with a person that creeps you out. Find people who give you the creeps a little bit, right? And then just love them. Pick your movie star. You'd say the nicest person in the world. They're super easy. So, don't start with me because I'm a really easy guy to get along with. Find somebody who you don't, whether because it's their religious views, how they express them, their views about whatever the hot topic is in society. Just whatever that is, somebody that just gives you the creeps, and find a way to engage them. This idea of being shepherds, not sheriffs. I think that's what we need more. And we're not trying to control people's conduct, right? We're just trying to be with them in the field. The shepherd doesn't tell the sheep what to eat. He's just there to protect them.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that, Bob.
And shepherds get lost too. A lot of my friends, if 747 started falling out of the sky as quickly as my friends are. I mean, they ground the whole fleet. And they say, what's up? And what happens is that like people that are shepherding, they get spread a little thin. And so let's just be compassionate to the people that are trying to do a good job even when they aren't. People that aren't doing a good job, even though they ought to be trying. Just be compassionate and just say that they're just on a different part of the path than us.
That's amazing.
And I never try to figure out if I'm ahead of them or behind them. Sometimes these people that annoy you, the problem is you can still hear them. You can't see them on the path, but you can still hear them. And just be a little bit more generous. Or get some ear jacks. You get to change the music. You get to decide what music to put on the soundtrack of your life. If there's a guy water skiing in a beautiful lake and there's all this happy music, it's going to be an awesome day. I mean, he's going to hit this triple up in the air or something. But if the music turns dark and the film cuts to a log bobbing in the water, he's going to hit the log. So part of it is just say, you get to choreograph your life. And it isn't being ignorant. I try death penalty cases against witch doctors that sacrifice kids. I mean, I've got gears. And God loves justice, and he's nuts about kids, and I am too. But that doesn't make me walk around with a dour face. I get it. But I also have a witch doctor school. And it's we're going to go graduate a bunch of them. And we don't teach them how to be witch doctors. We teach these leaders, these tribal leaders, how to read and write. And there's something crazy that happens. Go teach somebody who creeps you out how to read and write. Get to know their name. You'll actually love them. And the crazy part, they've stopped sacrificing kids.
That's perfect.
Because they have somebody who loves them, somebody that sees them. They found a shepherd, not a sheriff.
That's really good. Okay, so you've alluded to this, but a lot of... Oh, this is amazing. You guys, Bob is...
Hello, it's Bob here.
You just got a phone call.
Hi there. Who's this? Yeah, no, the phone number is real. And I always believe that when people say stuff that's true. That's what I do. And I know that kind of goes cross-range from the idea that you need to just double and triple check it, but just assume people are telling the truth. So you guys got this. I'm glad you called. Hey, listen, I'm just talking to a friend right now, so I need to jump off the line, but you got my cell number. Call anytime if I can help you out. All right, I'll see you. So that would be typical. They're wondering. They really don't have anything to talk about. There's just a guy together with somebody else, and they say, no, that's not true. And then what if we could make one thing come true for people? It's kind of like this idea of, it's like Make-A-Wish, but for people that don't know that they're sick, this cynicism has crept in somehow, that they think they're going to get a recording about how to buy a box of books or something. And really, when you answer the phone and say hello, you just answered every question they have. They just want to know if it's really true. And if we can make one thing come true to people, I think it would open the door that maybe they would think maybe something else is true. Maybe they would be a little bit more generous in their assumptions about somebody else, to consider them a little bit more worthy than themselves. If we could just do that, I don't know, might work.
I love that.
But I want to fail trying. I don't want to fail watching.
Beautiful.
Right? Instead of just give it a try. What's it cost you? It cost me 30 seconds. And here's a guy that walks away going, it's true. And then he's on his path. Shepherds, not sheriffs. Just say, go do your thing. But don't say there's no program to join. There's no something. There's nothing on the other side of the equal sign. And if that became normative, then we've really got something. We have, when our kids were young, we put this star on the bottom of our plate. Somebody would get the star plate, and they're the big winners. And so I know it sounds ridiculous, but I taught business law at this university in town here for 18 years, and there would always be a star test. And I wouldn't tell them who would get it, but we would hand out the test, and somebody would get the test that has a star on the back. And I'll tell them, you know what? You can ask me the answer to any question on the test, and I'll write the answer up on the board. If you're stuck on number 42, I'll write the answer on the board. Or you can give it away. You get to decide. whatever you want to do. I taught that class for 18 years, and every time I gave the test, somebody would say, give me the answer to 39. And so I'd write 39 on the board, and they'd say, give me the answer to 11. I'd write 11 on the board. And finally, there was this person, I said, who has this TARS test? And this woman looks up kind of startled because nobody said anything. And I said, hey, do you have a question, or you can give it away? What do you want to do? And she's like, oh, yeah, I'll give it away. It was automatic for her. She just gave this thing away. What she didn't know is that the rules were this. If you ask me the answer for a question, I'll give you the answer to that question. If you give it away, you get a perfect score.
Whoa.
Right? And when all the people finish their exams, there's 3 people less in a class of 70. She's one of them. She didn't give it away because she had this thing nailed. She gave it away because that's what she does. And what if she gave it away to somebody? And then that person said, no, I'm going to give it away. And by the time you do that 3 or 4 times, nobody's going to say, give me the answer to 15.
Yeah.
Because you've established this beautiful norm. What you do when you get the STAR test is you give it away.
Beautiful.
And there's this beautiful unwritten rule that none of us really believe is true, that the way to get everything is to give it away. And I know it's this reverse economy, but my worldview is all based on a crazy reverse economy about first and last and loving people who creep you out and all this crazy stuff.
That's beautiful. I love that. And a lot of these stories you've shared are in this book that you wrote a few years ago, and the book's been really successful. And it's really cool, though, because that book was a lot of people's first discovery of you in a lot of ways. And before that, you were just this lawyer doing all this stuff secretly. And kind of part of this book is this idea of here's how to be secretly incredible. Here's how to do amazing stuff that moves the needle behind the scenes. And you've kind of built this community of people who are doing amazing work and not telling people about it. Tell me a little bit more about that, because you just talked about this reverse economy. That's so upside down. That's so not what people do. And it's at the same time working, and it's really cool, and it's exciting. It's contagious.
Yeah, I'll say I didn't build any community, but there's a whole bunch of people that are out there. A movement is just a bunch of people making moves, right? So there's a bunch of people that are just quietly making moves, and they're all around you. You're one of them, person across the street, the lady that's the receptionist, they're making moves in their own way, and then just to be curious about their stuff. When you get an illness and you know the really long name for whatever you've got, you know the long name because you've got it. But you never know the long name of what everybody else has got. So maybe learning the longer name of that. And it's going to take being available, and it's going to take saying, I want to intersect with more people. I'm not looking for more friends. I'm trying to do a good job with the ones I've got, but to recognize us as being a family. And every family has a nutty uncle, right? I'm one of them. But just find your lane. Be who God made you to be, instead of trying to be like each other, because we'll never end up finding love's way if we spend all of our time trying to be like each other. So if you're tempted to, just call it out. Comparison is a punk. Literally just pound the steering wheel. Comparison's a punk. If you feel yourself comparing yourself to somebody else, you go it's a punk. Don't call them a punk. Comparison's a punk.
I love that. So every single episode, we love to ask 3 questions, and I wanted to ask you those questions really quick. My first question is, how would you describe the kind of person that you most admire in the world?
The people that dazzle me aren't the people that are up in front. They're the people that would fight for the worst parking spot. They're the people that would sit where all the smoke from the fire's going. There's these quiet heroes. You don't even notice them, but when you do notice them, you're shaped by them. That idea that bright lights don't need spotlights, right? There are people that are bright like that. They just get love's way is not to be the hero of every story or the victim of every story, but just the guy in between.
That just gave me goosebumps. I love that. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that when you notice that person, you said it perfectly. It shapes you.
Yeah, I have a neighbor who takes my garbage can out. Because it's Mondays. I know how to do that. He doesn't do it because he thinks I have too much garbage. He thinks he wants to free me up. He just wants to be my neighbor. I have another neighbor that brings over when it was like time for trick-or-treaters to come. Like she just came over with a bunch of candy just in case I didn't have enough.
Oh,
Like those are people like that's dazzling.
that's really cool. That's amazing. My second question is, what are you consuming right now that you love? And I know that, when you've got a lot of stuff going on, it may not necessarily be a movie or a TV show, but what's something that you're kind of engaging with right now that it's changing the way that you see the world and it's changing the way that you act?
Yeah, I've got a lot of writing projects right now. So most of my time on airplanes is spent with just lots of words. I've got 3 kids. 2 of them are married, and we only book things 9 months and 1 day in the future because somebody's going to call and say they're like pregnant, and I'll finish out what I said I'd do, and then you'll never hear from me again ever. So that I do because I know instead of doing things at work, that will actually last. And so one of the things I'm doing between now and then is just writing down a lot of words, knowing that like I'm out as soon as the call comes. There's going to be skid marks to a stop. Not because this 18-inch long thing will know me, but my kids will know I'm available. There's just cool. Nothing. But like literally, I'll like leave now and fly to Houston, and then I'll fly back for a meal, and then I'll fly to Arizona, and I'll fly back for a meal with Sumer. She won't even know where I am. Most of the time when people ask her, like, where's Bob? She says he's on his way home. Because I always am. So the things that are consuming me are this, like writing these words down, knowing the person who I'm becoming, and let that person who I'm becoming inform who I am right now, right? To figure out who Brandon is becoming, right? Go talk to that. How old are you right now?
24.
Yeah,
23. Wait, I don't even know how old I am. 23.
Go talk to 33-year-old Brandon. Have a long conversation, say, who are you? And then let that shape who you are right now. So next version of me, Grandpa. And because I'm not going to be with anybody, it's informing who I am right now. I'm going to go be with everybody.
Beautiful. That's so good. My last question is, based on the ways you've chosen to step out and live your life a little bit differently, what's one thing you'd encourage others to do to kind of follow in those footsteps? Not necessarily to follow in the footsteps and become Bob Goff, but to become themselves in a more full way.
Yeah, if we walked next door, what you'd find is this flint, and I carry this flint around with me all over the place, and I would say make more sparks. Yeah, like, a lot of people want to light fires, but just like make more sparks, and then the sparks fall where they are, and then you'll know the best kinds. There's fires that are like it's burning other people's ideas down. That isn't helpful. Like when somebody has an idea that you disagree with, don't burn it down, right? That makes you an arsonist, right? And so, but light sparks, and then just see where they go in people's lives. And then we don't try to control it. Like literally, just say like, I want to do it in beautiful ways. There's a beautiful way to light fires, and then there's a dastardly way. Most people don't want the dastardly way, but it looks pretty similar sometimes in terms of the outcome in other people's lives. So stop asking, how's your life working for you? But ask this, how is your life working for the people around you? It's another way to say, don't light fires, like just make the sparks. And say, are these sparks that I'm making in your life, are they actually helpful? And some people might tell you, like, actually, that's not helpful. And so do less of that. And then somebody will say, that's actually is helpful. Do more of that. So there's no, like, when people talk about, like, God's plan for your life and all that, that's a bunch of baloney. His plan, love everybody. Literally, make the sparks. Blow on the embers. Like, just make beautiful things happen in the lives of the people around you, right? Shepherds do that. Sheriffs don't. Sheriffs bust people who did it wrong. Just be like, engage them. The whole world just told them they did it wrong. Be the one person, like, that just gives better advice. And the best advice I've ever gotten was a hug.
Light more sparks and maybe give a hug. I love that, Bob. That's perfect advice. Man, every single episode I finish off by saying, hey, where can people follow you online? I know you're a super humble guy, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you'll find me.
I love that. That's perfect. Bob, thank you so much for being on Sounds Good. Thanks for sharing your stories, your wisdom. I know you've made a huge impact in my life through the years, and for that, I'm grateful.
Thanks.
Thank you so much to each and every one of you who tuned into Sounds Good this week. If you ever want to get in touch with feedback, ideas, dream podcast guests, or just you have questions for me, totally feel free to reach out at brandon@brandonharvey.com. And that email goes straight to me. And while you're at it, please come say hi on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and Facebook at Brandon Harvey. That's Brandon with an E-N. This week and every week, you can find the show notes for this week's episode of Sounds Good at brandonharvey.com/podcast. It's also a great place to find older episodes you might have missed. This show, Sounds Good with Brandon Harvey, is part of the Gradient Podcast Network and is created in collaboration between Gradient and I. And with that, that's a wrap for this week's podcast. I'll see you online, and I'll talk to you next week when we get the opportunity to learn from another inspiring person. Sound good?